Hello, and welcome to today's webinar that's all about my breakthroughs and my lessons from my recent trip to Mexico, where I spent a week with the awesome and incredible Lisa Nichols. I'm going to give you all a few moments to join. There's about 60 people registered for today's webinar, which is fantastic. I tend to do my webinars in the evening, so it's a real treat to be able to do one during the day. But I know a lot of people have registered to have been sent the recording. So yeah, I'm just happy that anybody is here live. Hi Dipti, hi Heather. Yeah, do say, put a comment in the chat who you are, what you do, whereabouts in the world you are. I'm hoping that I'll have people from all over the place. So yeah, we're going to get started in a few moments. I've got so much juicy stuff to share. And the good news is, I think my jet lag has gone. I have had terrible jet lag this week. My sofa has been the most terrifying place because every time I sit on it, I fall asleep, which is not good. But I feel a lot better now. Hi, Jennifer. Oh, lots of really cool people on the call. So yeah, just a few more moments and then I'll get stuck in. I'm going to be sharing lots of kind of lessons, things that I think are relevant to the kind of entrepreneurs that I work with, the small business owners. So hopefully it's not just going to be about me and my breakthroughs, but hopefully some of it will resonate with you too. And just as Lisa does in all of Lisa's workshops, she gets people, and it's very American, so sorry to all the Americans on the call, but she gets people to put their hand up, one hand or two hands, so that we can see who else feels the same. And it's so powerful to look around a room and realize you are not alone, which is one of Lisa's strap lines. So equally, what I'd love for you to do is, if I say something that kind of resonates with you, please put in the chat that you feel that way too. I really want this to be a kind of two-way conversation. I'm going to speak for about 30 minutes on my revelations, and then I'm open to taking some Q&A if you guys are up for that, and I can bring you onto the call, but no pressure. We'll see kind of how that feels. Jennifer says she can't see other people's comments. Not sure, anybody else having that issue with not being able to see? Oh, neither can I. So hello. Hang on, there must be a setting here of some sort. What does it say? Allow attention to chat with. Not sure why that is happening. All panelists. I don't know why that's happening. Because here it says that it's allowing people to chat with each other. Oh, that is a real shame. Okay, I'm going to try not to be distracted by that, because me and tech doesn't always kind of work out. So let's have a look. Oh, that's a real shame. That's never the case normally. Okay. I've got no solution. I can see all of you guys. Yeah, I want to see all the hands too, right, Jennifer? So in your in the chat function where it says more, can you see if there are any I don't know, any kind of things you can tick? I don't know. I'm going to try and not be distracted by this. Okay, maybe what I'll do, actually, let's have a look. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to make you all panelists, and then that way you can physically put your hands up. That's better. So I'm going to promote you all to panelists. Can you please put yourselves on mute? And then that way we can... There we go. And look, lovely faces for me to see. That's much better. That's much better on the call. I was trying not to be completely distracted, but anyway, I'm going to put you all on here, and then if you can just make sure that so we don't get any distractions. It's just going to take me a few minutes to do that. And then if you hear anything that's resonating, then just kind of smile or put your hand up. I don't know what's going on with the chat. That's really frustrating. So there we go. Just a few more. Oh,
Julie?
Yes.
It seems to be working now.
It does. Oh.
I can see I can see all the comments. I don't know if Jennifer can or...
Okay, so let me know in the comments, guys, if you're still having problems seeing the chat. Thanks for that update, Heather. It's always difficult from my end because I can't see what you guys can see, which is a bit annoying. Okay, there's loads of you. This is brilliant. I'm really, really chuffed that so many of you can join live, because these things always feel weird, like you're just talking to yourself. So more. I've got Sean. I love it. I can see people from all areas of my life, which is, and a few people that I don't recognise, which is always good. Okay, I am going to get started because it is 5 minutes past 10. Yeah, as I said, just make sure that you're all on mute, and then a little bit later on in the call, when it becomes a bit more interactive, I can unmute you and we can have a bit of a conversation. Okay, so I'm going to give a quick overview and context to why I am doing this webinar. My name's Julie Creffield. I am a serial entrepreneur. I'm best known for the work I do around a company called 2 Fat to Run, which is all about plus size fitness. But in recent years, I've also been running a range of personal development and life coaching programs. And this year have been running a program called Tribe Builder, which is all about helping small business owners and entrepreneurs to make more money and more impact online by being more authentically them. But also kind of leading more campaign-based businesses that make it really easy for people to kind of get on board with what you're trying to achieve. So let me talk to you about Lisa Nichols. Now, I'm sure many of you will know who she is. She is an American transformational coach, very well known in the States, as featured in the film The Secret, and also is author of the book Chicken Soup for the African American Soul, I think. And she's a phenomenal woman. Now, she has been on my radar for a long time, but something happened around 2 years ago, I think it was. I was looking for books for specifically written by women about money, because there were so many books on the market that were written by men, and I just think that women have a slightly different set of issues when it comes to making money. And I was like, I just want to hear a woman's perspective, and I wanted to read about a story of a woman who had gone from being a single parent like I am into, you know, being running a company that makes millions of pounds. And I just wanted to see it from a different perspective. So I downloaded a book called Abundance Now, which I've now got a paper copy of as well. And I was training for a marathon at the time, and I was on a run, and I literally had to stop mid-run because I was so overwhelmed by what I was hearing through my headphones. I was like, oh my God, her story is my story. It's a ridiculous thing to say because we are so different. You know, she is an African-American woman who is a millionaire, and I am none of those things. So it was a weird thing for me to feel so kind of connected to her. But that evening I came home and was like, I just want to find a way of working with this woman. So I went online and I found a very, very cheap or affordable program that she was running that was about kind of speaking, becoming a stronger speaker. So I signed up to that, and it was a great course. It taught me some new things, and I really enjoyed being part of the community that was mainly kind of American. So I just really enjoyed it. And then I got this email out of the blue that said, you know, thank you for signing up to this program. Did you know you get a free ticket to Lisa's Speak and Write to Make Millions conference in San Diego? And I was like, oh my God. Firstly, I'd never been to San Diego before, so that was a little bit exciting. And then I was like, oh, I can go and see her live. Now, I've been a speaker for a little while, and I really struggle to find women in the UK to look up to when it comes to speakers. And we have some great speakers, don't get me wrong, but it's really difficult to find world-class speakers, in my view. So I just thought it'd be a great opportunity to go out and see her. So I did. I went out to the Speak and Write conference and was absolutely blown away. And she spoke about a retreat that she was running in Mexico. And I think partly because it was happening in August, and I'm a single parent, and I've got a daughter who's now 6. And the only time that it's easy to get childcare is during the summer holidays because I've got lots of siblings. And I was like, oh, maybe I could go on this retreat. But it was expensive. It was like £6,500 or something like that. And at that point in my business, I wasn't making that kind of money easily. But still, this little seed in my head was like, oh my God, could I go to this thing? And I woke up, the following day, I woke up with this idea of how I could make £10,000 in 10 days. And long story short is I flew back to the UK, and within 10 days, I made £10,000. In fact, last year in May, I had my first ever £15,000 month in my business. Now, I don't say that to show off. This is not what this is about. But the point I'm trying to make is when you feel inspired to take action, it helps you to up level your business. And that is exactly what happened with my desire to go on this retreat. And this is the retreat that I'm obviously going to be speaking to you about today. And one of the things that I've done this week is I've developed a mini program that is going to walk people through all of the steps that I took to make that money quite quickly. Because thinking about it, I have used that process before to make smaller amounts of money, and it's absolutely the go-to process that I use over and over again in my business when I need a bit of cash. And that's going to be a free program. It's a 10-day program. I'll put the link in an email to you after this call. So yeah, I want to just jump straight into kind of what the retreat was like. It was a 7-day retreat held in a place just across the border from San Diego, a place in Mexico called Tecate, and it was held on a ranch, on a retreat, a luxury retreat ranch called Rancho La Puerta, which is 75 years old. It's steeped in history. Apparently, when it first launched, people brought their own tents, whereas now it's very, very luxurious and has all the mod cons. Although saying that, it's a tech-free zone, which was really, really nice. So actually, that is my lesson number 1. It was so empowering to take a week off with hardly any access to technology. I'd made this commitment that I was going to do some video lessons while I was there, and actually it became increasingly difficult to upload them. So there was internet in one of the lounges, but because everybody wanted to get on it, and because I only had short amounts of time, it became really difficult to upload the videos that I'd made. But then it was like this lesson to me was, Julie, you are away on this beautiful retreat in these beautiful grounds, put your phone away. And it was just really kind of refreshing to switch off from the outside world, from all of the influences from the outside world, and to not be in not even promote mode, but I think there's this mode that we get into as kind of business leaders where we are always publishing. We are just pushing stuff out into the world. Well, it's a two-way thing. We push stuff out and we also consume. And just to take a break from that was really empowering. So I'd just like to ask you on the call, how many of you ever take that time away from being a promoter and a publisher and consuming? How often do you switch off? And one of the cool things that happened on the retreat was when I went into my little kind of villa, on the bed was this little Hessian bag that was a sleeping bag for my phone, which I thought was really, really cool. And they said, take this home and make sure that you put your phone in there from time to time so that you get a bit of a break. So that was the first lesson, really, was making sure that I take time out from my business. And sometimes we kid ourselves. We say we're taking time out and we still are like, putting loads of stuff up on Instagram and checking our feeds and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm committing at least once a year to take a week off to do some reflecting, some thinking, and just to be. Like, how often do we just take time to be? So that's the kind of first lesson that I wanted to share with you. I think the second one, which really struck a nerve with me, was around kind of collecting good people. So Lisa spoke about, the quality of people that are attracted to her work. And she speaks about her retreats being the place where superheroes can take off their capes and they leave their capes at the door. And I tell you what, it was so refreshing. I go to so many events, so many conferences and networking events where the minute you're through the door, people are discreetly trying to sell themselves to you, whether it's through what they're wearing, whether it's through the questions they ask. You can always tell when somebody is gagging to tell you what they do for a living. And actually what was really interesting at this retreat was that there was none of that. Literally for the first 3 days of the retreat, nobody knew who anybody was. There wasn't the big introductions. Egos were absolutely left at the door, and that was completely empowering. And we couldn't tell from what each other were wearing because we were all in kind of down mode. We were all in, you know, workout clothes and flowy dresses and barefoot. And that's a real leveler to not need to know what each other's wealth is or what their status is. And that is what was so good about this retreat. It wasn't about our accolades and who'd done a TEDx and who was at 7 figures. None of that mattered. It was about who we were as a person. And that can feel quite vulnerable. But for me, that was just so refreshing. And I think there is something that I know I'm definitely guilty of. When you go into a room and you make assumptions, you make judgments, you look at the information that's available to you, what people are wearing, how high their high heels are, you know, how slick their suit is, you know, the quality of their business card. And we make assumptions over who's doing well and who do we want to connect with and all of that. And what I realized in that week was not to make assumptions, not to assume that you're doing better than somebody else or that you're doing worse, you know. And what is it about us as humans that have to, you know, we have to find our marker somehow. We want to know where we are in the rankings of people because somehow that makes us safe. And I don't know, I think Lisa said something around when she was first trying to get traction in her business, she would also always make sure she wasn't the smartest person in the room, and she would go to conferences, she would go to the same conference over and over again to surround herself with people who had what she wanted. And sometimes we do that, don't we? We go to networking events and we're like, oh, yeah, I've got things sorted. I'm like up here and everybody else is down there. Or maybe that's just me who feels like that sometimes. But it does feel nice to be in a room where you don't have to dim your light because the people around you are equally as powerful as you or are doing things better than you, so you can learn from them. So it's made me think about, I'm not a big person for going to networking events, if I'm being honest. And that is partly because sometimes I feel like I have to dim my light. I don't want to go in there bragging, and that's what it feels like, you know, when people say, oh, what do you do? And I share what I do. And it's nice when people say, oh, you know, you're inspiring, or, oh, I want to do a TEDx, or I wish I did this. And sometimes I feel like I feel myself holding myself back because I don't want to make other people feel shitty. I don't know if anybody else feels that. But I know for me, it was really nice to not have to do either of those things. I didn't have to hold back, but I also didn't have to prove myself. Like literally just being in that space was enough. That was a real leveler. And I think from a tribe builder perspective, often in our business, we think we have to market to brand new people. We have to build our email list. We have to increase our followers. We have to create leads in every conversation that we have. And what we forget is that we've been on this planet for a while. You know, we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s or whatever. And we have collected people along the way, people that are our advocates. And they don't just disappear because we're in a new niche or we're doing something new. We often neglect the network that we have and the resources and the networks that they have. So this idea of collecting good people is exactly what Tribe Builder is about. So number 3, and I am just rattling through these because I really want to get to the Q&A. So this is just kind of my observations really. Number 3 is about asking the right question. Now, when I went off to the retreat, I didn't really have a question in mind. All I knew was I was a little bit burnt out from my business. I was a little bit frustrated at the fact that I didn't have much clarity over my Too Fat to Run business, which has just been kind of treading water, if I'm being honest. But I didn't have the right questions to ask. And when there was an open coaching session, I had about 25 minutes with Lisa where she was literally helping me with my stuff. And I really wish that I'd prepared a better question, because all I did was I told her, gave her a little bit of context, and I told her some of my challenges. And although she was able to help me, what she actually helped me to do was identify the right question. And the question wasn't the question that I thought it would be. It wasn't about my business. It was more about my identity as a business leader and the personal stuff that I'd been holding, how that was stopping me. One of the biggest breakthroughs for me, and it, you know, one of those things that you know deep down you know about yourself, but sometimes you have to say it out loud to admit it to yourself. And mine was about trust. I have real trust issues, both in my personal life and in my business life. It's why I find it hard to hand work over to people. It's why I find it hard to build a team. And being able to really articulate where those issues have come from, how they're not serving me, and how I can take tiny weeny little steps towards addressing that issue. So I think finding somebody who is going to help you to unpack that stuff so that you do ask the right questions of yourself moving forward. So my question, something that I need to ask myself every day, is, am I trusting myself and my expertise enough? And how can I help myself to trust other people to help me in my business, if that makes sense? So I'm just catching up on the chat here. Brilliant. Keep the comments coming. So this is a good one here. Jennifer says, what I struggle with is when I'm launching something or feeling not successful, is to even get out and be public. When I'm feeling great and successful, it's simple and I love it, and it's catch-22 in the worst way. Yeah, absolutely. So number 4 on my list is about sharing brilliance. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I was a little bit nervous about doing this webinar because it might look like I'm just sharing all of Lisa's content. And obviously I paid to be on the retreat, you guys didn't, and therefore is that like a weird way of me disseminating her stuff to my own advantage? You know, and I really kind of toyed with, how do I position that? Because this is not me saying, and then we did this, and then we covered this, and then we covered this. It's not that at all. It's more about my breakthroughs. And actually Lisa did an exercise, a very vivid exercise, I won't go into what it was, that just made everybody in the room go, oh, and somebody else had said, oh, I've done this exercise before. And she was like, yeah, she said, it's not my exercise. This is a Jack Cranfield exercise. And she said, you know, when you see brilliance, you should share that brilliance, but you must credit it. And for those of you who've been watching on social media this week with all of the stuff around Jay Shetty, you know, I do think in our businesses, we are a little bit nervous about sharing other people's things and getting credit for it. But I think when you are a business leader, when you are doing this transformational work, I think we have a duty to share stuff that helps people have a breakthrough. And sometimes in our businesses, we can be a bit like protective of our work, and we can be like, I'm only giving my good stuff to my clients. But when you are freer with your stuff, it enables it to be shared, and then people want to work with you because you're the source of that awesomeness. So yeah, that thing around sharing brilliance kind of gave all of us in the room really Lisa's permission to kind of share aspects of what we'd been learning through the week. And actually the biggest concept that she shared, and this is number 5 on my list, was just a tool that I can use every single day in my business. So she spoke about, as business owners, when we go into our cave, and she spoke about this thing that we do where we retreat. So we do that either physically, where we like just hide away from the public and we go into our bedrooms or our homes and we just Netflix and chill. But also sometimes we do it kind of emotionally, or you know, in conversation. We just stop talking and we go somewhere in our brain where we're, you know, we have these self-limiting beliefs, or we just kind of, you know, the mind chatter starts where we're like, oh God, you know. And I spotted myself doing this at moments at the retreat. And when you have that language, when a group of people have that language, they're able to spot that in each other. So there was an evening where we'd been out for dinner, and a few of us were going back to one of the pools. There were all these various pools, and one of them had, or I think they all had hot tubs, but there was one that had the hot tub, and we were all going back one night, and we were all in the hot tub. We was all having a great time, just chatting to each other and stuff like that. And then I felt myself do it. I just kind of retreated. I don't know where I went in my head. And two women who were on this retreat literally went from one side of the hot tub over to me and said, what are you doing in your cave? And it really made me laugh because they'd called me out on my own bullshit. I had absolutely retreated away from what was happening socially because I'd gone into my own little brain. And I think knowing when you go into your cave, what are the things that trigger you, that make you go into your cave? Is it feeling overwhelmed through scrolling on social media? Is it being in a public place? Some people feel overwhelmed from being, you know, in conferences and stuff. And identifying, is that a self-care technique in terms of having to pull yourself away? Or is it a coping strategy that actually isn't serving you and you find yourself doing it over and over again? So I think that was probably one of the most powerful lessons to me, was to not go into my cave when things become scary. And yesterday morning, I was really tired. The jet lag was just really kicking my ass. I'd put something out on social media and somebody had called me out on something that made me feel a bit weird. And then I could feel myself not wanting to post. I didn't want to do any of the things on my to-do list. And I had to reach out. I had to reach out to a few of my business buddies and tell them how I was feeling. I reached out to my speaker coach and I went and met with him yesterday afternoon. And then all of a sudden I felt better. Now, if I'd stayed in my cave, it's quite possible I would have had to do that for a few days until I found, you know, the confidence to come out again. We're getting there. I've got 2 more points and then I'm going to open up for some questions. Number 6 is what I'm calling sorting out your shit. Now, I think I kind of went along to Lisa's conference thinking she was going to solve my business problems, which how could she do? There were, you know, a big group of us. She doesn't know my business. You know, being able to give that context was never going to happen. She was never going to be able to give me the answers that I wanted. And I think this is what happens in coaching sometimes. We go in with huge expectations about what somebody can do, and we expect them to do the work, when actually we're the ones that have to do the work. We have to look inside ourselves. We have to sort our shit out. And I don't think, and Lisa said this as well, you cannot separate personal stuff from business stuff, because the personal stuff seeps in all the time. So if you have trust issues in your personal life, chances are you're going to have trust issues in your business. If you procrastinate in your normal life, chances are you're going to procrastinate in your business life. And that separation, particularly for the entrepreneurs, is so, we're so intertwined. You know, our business lives are so part of our normal lives that it's really hard. So I think, you know, Lisa was talking about, and I love this, it was such a good example. She was saying how shiny and sexy and glittery her bullshit is. You know, she said, when you're high functioning, you can get away with functioning at 50%, because everybody, your 50% is everybody else's 100%, which means that we can cruise. It means we stay in our comfort zone. We don't push ourselves out of that because we feel like what we're doing is enough, because we're getting the accolades, we're making some progress. People go, oh my God, you're so amazing, you're so inspirational. And that feels like, oh, I don't need to do any more than that, I'm doing enough. And, you know, what we sometimes do is we use our kind of bullshit excuses, we use our flaws, we use the things that really we should process and work on, and we build stuff around it to make ourselves feel better. And I just had this massive realization. It was the first time I popped my hand up. You know, one of those moments at an event where you put your hands up and you look at yourself and you're like, oh my God, I've put my hand up. Everyone's looking at me, and all of a sudden a microphone's coming over. And that was me. It was on about day 2. It might have even been day 1. And I found myself, I was compelled to put my hand up. And it was all about these kind of how you use your shit and you build stuff around it so that you don't have to deal with it. And I just had this realization. I wrote it in my book. I said, it was easier for me to build a global business than it was to address the fact that I didn't want to be overweight. So my business, Too Fat to Run, you know, I was the figurehead of that. You know, I was out there as a role model saying that you can do whatever you want in the plus size body, you know, and I continue to be an advocate for that. But I think over the last few years, I have really struggled with this idea that to man up my, you know, to be the figurehead for this brand, I always had to be overweight. And people would say it, oh my God, you know, what are you going to do if you lose weight? You know, and I think what Lisa said to me in response to that was, how can you, she said, I can see why you're stuck in your business, because how can you want to grow your business when you know, subconsciously you're thinking, well, I don't want to be overweight. So there was this constant tension. So, you know, being able to address your personal development issues alongside your business growth, I think is fundamental, because until I do that, until I really look at the things that are holding me back, then maybe I won't progress in any of those businesses. So I think for me, that was probably the biggest realization of the retreat, was that, you know, I do sabotage my health sometimes. I don't always look after my body in the way I should. I sometimes use my big fitness challenges as a mask for my unhappiness. So, you know, that feels, and you guys are the first people that I'm saying this to, so I feel quite vulnerable saying that, because it does have a big knock-on effect, particularly to my clients who have been very, very, what's the word? They've been loyal, you know, my loyal customers who are, you know, advocates of plus size fitness and, you know, loving your body, whatever size it is. I feel to some extent that I owe them to not, you know, lose loads of weight, because then I'll make them feel shitty. But that's something that I need to work on. So Jennifer says, this is exactly what has come to the forefront for me right now. Spot on. Yeah, we have to deal with our stuff. So Heather says, how refreshing that she says you cannot separate the two, business and personal. I've always felt like this and talked about this, but so many don't agree. We are holistic. Absolutely. And if we're standing in our truth, all this is integrated and cannot be separated. Absolutely. And one of the things that Lisa said was, we have this fear as leaders that we have to be seen as perfect and whole, and, you know, how can people follow our example if we show our flaws? But actually we can be awesome and flawed simultaneously, and by allowing ourselves to be flawed, we allow ourselves to grow. And if we don't acknowledge those things where we feel a little bit broken, we don't give ourselves the opportunity to heal and to work on those areas, which I think is so kind of empowering. And then, so the final one, number 7, is, how do you stay connected to that work after you have such an awesome week? So I felt like last week in Mexico, I was in paradise. Yes, I was in this beautiful 400-acre site. There was a program of 25 different fitness and well-being sessions every day. I was in my element as a fitness blogger. I was looking at the list going, oh my God, I want to do that. I want to do that. It was just the most incredible venue to be in and surroundings. But actually that wasn't the thing. The thing for me was, it was just a place filled with love. And I say that unapologetically. I live in London, in East London. You walk down the street, not only do people ignore you, but sometimes they are actively rude at you. And yet this place in Mexico, nobody walked past each other without saying good morning or smiling or how are you or giving you a hug. You know, I'd had dinner with people and just, you know, nobody was looking at their phones. We were all interested in each other, and it wasn't about what can I get from you. It was just this real kind of expression of love and support and, you know, feeling of not being alone. And then I've been catapulted back into London, you know, bank holiday weekend. It's really hot and stuffy and humid and busy and angry. And, you know, I've had to deal with a whole heap of stuff that I'd put on hold while I went away to Mexico. And then I just feel really like, like I'm not connected to that way that I was feeling. So I've had to ask myself, how do you stay connected to the work? And this can apply to anything you go to. So you go on a training course, you do a personal development thing, you know, you do a series of, you know, yoga sessions or whatever, and then you come back into your real life. So what's the solution to that? And I think it's about finding little anchors, finding triggers, finding things that are going to help you remember that feeling. So for me, it's around lighting candles. So I've lit some candles. I've got some essential oils that remind me of the smells of Mexico. I'm eating some of the foods that I ate there. I've got an accountability group with some of the guys from the retreat who I was working with. And it's about kind of finding practices that enable you to kind of embed that work, because personal development is not something you do once. It's not something you go, right, I've sorted that out, tick, I don't need to look at that again. It's something that you have to stay in the work. You have to stay connected. So some of that is about practice, finding a practice, just like yoga is a practice. But some of it is about holding yourself to account. So I've set 3 goals 90-day goals. One of those is around weight loss, which is the first time in many, many years that I've set myself a weight loss goal. One of those is around launching a new program, which is my Grand in Your Hand program, which is my free course. And then the other one, I can't remember what the other one was. I think, no, I can't remember. Oh, goodness, I can't remember what the other one was. But it's about having other people to hold you to account. And that is why I'm a massive advocate of having a coach, having an accountability buddy, having a mastermind, and finding people that share that same desire to be in the work. It's some people that you can be vulnerable with. So, the 3 principles of Tribe Builder is be visible, allow yourself to be vulnerable, and be of value to other people, other people and the world. So Heather says you can be the role model by sharing your own journey, and that will so inspire your clients. Rituals and routines. Yeah. Dorothy says, I feel I can't go for a health career as I'm not dealing with my own mental and physical issues. That's a really interesting point. That is a really interesting point. And I think this is my thoughts on that, because I hear this a lot. So last night I was on a call with some of my clients, and one of my clients, one of her big fat stupid goals is to become a plus size fitness instructor. And she said, I don't think I can do it yet because I haven't sorted out my own stuff. But sometimes we only need a coach that is a few steps ahead of us. And by committing to doing a qualification, or by committing to setting up your business, it holds you to account. Let me tell you, if I was not the figurehead of Too Fat to Run, do you think I'd still be running marathons and still training the way I do? That business holds me to account. My clients hold me to account. And there's nothing wrong with needing that level of accountability. I think being honest with yourself, I think I am always going to need external validation to keep me going. I don't think that makes me a bad person. It's just me tuning into the type of person that I am. That is a trigger that I have. I have a trigger that is about acknowledgement. And that probably comes from having multiple siblings and feeling a bit neglected as a child. And I think it's okay to look at some of that stuff and go, that's who I am. Yes, I could probably change some of it, but it serves me well. The fact that I require external validation actually serves the world, because it means that I'm out there doing the stuff that I do. Now, I'm conscious of time, so we're at 10:36, and I would love to be able to open up for some questions, because I realise I've thrown a load at you. But yeah, if you've got any questions, if you'd like to ask any questions either about the lessons that I've shared, or any thoughts or realizations, or even if you just kind of want to know what it was like to be in a room with Lisa for the week. So who is brave enough to come on and ask a question? Feel free to post them in the chat as well. Thank you, Heather. Heather says I'm looking very glam. Thank you. I have got a little bit of makeup on. My hair's a little bit greasy, but other than that, I feel a little bit glam. Thanks, Dipsy. So Heather says, my walking clients, especially the ones I take on long distance walks, keep me accountable, as I have to model what I want them to do. Absolutely. And I think there is something around modeling which is awesome, and it does keep us accountable. But I think allowing yourself to be vulnerable, allowing yourself to be honest about when you don't feel like training, when you've got injuries, when it's hard, and it doesn't have to be in a fitness space, it could be in any of the businesses that you run. It could be about having wobbles, and I know some of the businesses that you guys, it could be about your own vulnerabilities, your own wobbles, and that vulnerability attracts people to you. If somebody's too shiny, we're nervous of them because we're like, oh, I don't want to look silly in front of them. And one of the things that I loved so much about Lisa was how vulnerable she allows herself to be. Now, the skeptics could say she's built a business on that. And a lot of her talks are very emotive. And she talks about, she tells the story of when she only had like $11 and she couldn't afford nappies for her son, Jelani. And that's a very emotive story. But also she was completely vulnerable in the group and, was crying a lot of the time. And, I think that's really inspiring in a coach for them to be doing the work too. And she says that all the time. She is also doing this work. It's not like she's got it cracked. Heather says being vulnerable makes you real and gives others hope. Okay. So in the scheme of vulnerability, I'd love for you all to ask at least one question. So I'm looking at all of you. So Sean and Lorna and Julia, Maria, Claire, Donba, Dorth, Erin and Sophie all ask questions. Yeah, I want to see the hands. We couldn't see the hands. There is something about being on a webinar, isn't there? It's quite vulnerable to have yourself on video. But yeah, I'm gonna open up for questions because I would love to hear what your thoughts are. Heather, can I come to you? I know you're not shy. You're not shy.
Well, I didn't put my hand up either.
You know me, I pick on people.
I know. Sorry, about being vulnerable. I mean, that was why my comment to Dorothy about being a role model. I think that whole thing about being on your journey too, because that journey never ends. You know, I would totally agree with what Lisa was saying, you know, about we start on this journey of personal development and you think you've got something cracked then, you know, you get to a point, you think, yeah, I got that cracked. But then you just go to the deeper level and then you have to get that cracked and it never stops. And being that role model, you know, when I first started being a coach in 2000, I used to think, shit, I have to get all my stuff sorted because I want other people to sort their stuff. And that's putting a huge pressure on yourself. And no wonder often people with that pressure feel they don't want to be visible. But the other thing is you then set yourself on that pedestal and maybe not meaning to, but clients look at you or would-be clients look at you and think, yeah, but I'll never be like that. So when you can talk, and you do it a lot, and I hope I do it as well, when you can talk about getting things wrong, making mistakes, being vulnerable, being shit scared, you know, I have days when I don't want to walk. I have days when I don't walk. I have times when I go on a Camino experience when I'm not as fit as I would like to be. I eat the wrong things at times, you know, anyway, I'm not a model of perfection, but that gives your clients permission not to get it right all the time too. And when they know that you have times like this and you can come back up, even if you might have another one, they think, okay, I can do that. That is possible. It's step by step. I can get there. Yeah. So that's really my take on vulnerability. Don't be scared to be vulnerable because it serves you well.
Yeah. And do you think that vulnerability is something that you can practice and get better at?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you dip your toe into being vulnerable once and you feel very scared. And then often, you know, I'm sure many people listening have had the same experience. When you write a vulnerable post, be it a blog post or a social media post, and suddenly that's the one that gets all the interest, because I think also when you're being vulnerable, you tend to speak from your heart, and no, people can disagree, but you can't be wrong when you speak from that connection. So I think you can do it once and then you see, oh, actually this wasn't too bad. And then you want to do it again. And the more you do it, but I also think, there's a balance between vulnerable and becoming a victim. And you have to be very careful that you don't become the victim. And when I was recovering from my burnout and adrenal fatigue, when I was talking about it, I got to a point where somebody said to me, a good friend that I trusted said to me, Heather, it's time to leave that now because it's becoming your story. And so I had to make sure that when I talk about it now, I talk about the lessons, I talk about how it made me the better person.
Yeah. And, you know, Lisa speaks about that all the time. She speaks about standing on your story, not in your story.
Yes, yes.
From inside your story, you want people to kind of collaborate with you and just kind of still be in that negative energy and go, oh, it's so bad, wasn't it? Yeah, oh, it's awful, it's so difficult. And that doesn't help anybody.
No.
But I think there's also something around, and you know, you're in Tribe Builder, you know, kind of the way that we work in there, where we do allow each other to be vulnerable, and having those people that are going to call you out, that will say, I've noticed a pattern. I've noticed a pattern of procrastination, or going into your cave, or always saying it's difficult, or always saying I don't know. And it's only when you have those safe relationships where you know that's being given in a way of love rather than in a kind of really critical way.
I think that's a very, very good point. And that's where those mastermind, those groups like we have in Tribe Builder are so important, because the more you get to know and build a relationship with your participants, the more trust you have in them. And then when they do call you out, or when they do suggest a pattern, actually you don't write it off, you listen to it. And it's so important for all of us to have safe places that we can be our real true selves, you know.
Yeah. Thank you, Heather. I'm going to pick on a few other people. This might go terribly wrong. Jennifer, I'd love to hear from you, darling. I'm just picking on the people that I really know.
Hello.
Hi. How you
put my video on. I'm going to.
Go for it.
Okay. So I'm sitting here on my bed with unwashed hair, with no makeup, which is absolutely horrifying to me. But I was wanting to do that actually, because I've been really sick for the past month and haven't done any work. Massive chest infection out of the blue. And it has really, really, really forced me to realize that I have some huge issues around setting my own standards. I'm going to say impossibly high, but never impossible for me, and have been hugely successful in my business life because of that, historically. And, you know, have never failed at anything really, and have found things really easy to achieve and conquer and master. And in the past year or so, I've had kind of midlife stuff that I've gone through, and it's been a really challenging time. And I felt like I had found my footing a bit. And then I got sick. And I felt like it was the universe really saying, okay, we gave you this wake up call last year, or, you know, a couple years in the making, and you didn't pay attention. And so when I was sitting there really, really sick, I realized that actually I need to dive deep and sort this shit out, because it's really affecting me. And it's really, you know, when I'm successful, when things are happening, when I'm on top of the world, and everyone says, my God, you're so inspiring, you're so amazing, you're fearless. But then I realized that you can be incredibly self-confident, but you can have incredibly low self-esteem. And my way of coping and my way of managing is by doing, and is by achieving, and is by making shit happen. But actually, a lot of it is a coping mechanism, because I don't feel completely solid in myself, and I get my external validation from my achievements. And the universe was like, excuse me, we're not going to let you work for a month. And all these big plans that you have in place, these things you want to launch, like, you're not doing those right now. And it's been horrible. It has been absolutely horrible. But it's made me realize that, you know, despite all the self-development work I've done, I'm training as a psychotherapist right now, like, you haven't even begun to sort this shit out.
Do you know what you have as a wonderful opportunity is to be able to share that, because the work that you're doing, the business that you're creating, women need to hear that.
Yeah.
Women need to hear
I
that.
do feel like the stuff that I'm creating is maybe completely not in alignment, actually, after being sick for a month. Like, I do actually think the work that feels really profoundly important to me is around this dichotomy between self-confidence and self-esteem, and outward validation versus inward peace and comfort, you know? So anyway, so I was going to put my hand up, and you put my hand up for me. So here I am being vulnerable with shitty hair and, you know, all my warts on my bed with my cats.
I think you look awesome. Thank you for participating. I really appreciate it. Erin, I'm going to come to you, lovely. I know we were on a call last night, and I'm getting you to be more vulnerable.
Hello. I'm videoed up because I'm on the sofa with the 3-year-old.
Cool.
Hi. Yeah, I'm about to really put myself out there and get more vulnerable and potentially fall flat on my face, but that's all the fun, right? So that's my next 90 days.
Yeah, and so Erin's been on one of my programs, the Stop Playing Small program, which was a 6-week personal development program. And we had our final call last night, and Erin has got a really exciting 90-day plan that she's thrown herself into. So in terms of the mix between business stuff and personal stuff, does that resonate with you?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I've got 3 kids. So during this webinar, I had to deal with a potty training accident. So I literally cannot disentangle them. So yeah, that's just my life. Yeah.
And I think again for you, so you're a book coach, aren't you? You help people to kind of birth their book. And I think being able to weave that message in, because you know, women that are writing books that also have family commitments and other commitments that they're juggling, the more you talk about those, the more people are going to be kind of aligned to your work. So you may be sitting there thinking, oh God, I can't possibly talk about the fact that my child's just tipped the potty over. That kind of stuff is the stuff that will get traction online because everyone can relate to it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm the kind of book coach that wants you to write your book around your business and build your audience at the same time. I'm not the kind of book coach that's encouraging you to spit your book out in 25 days and not have an audience for it, or have to, you know, put your brakes on everything else in your business to do that. So yeah.
Brilliant. Rachel, can I come to you since you're out there in your video?
Hello, as I'm here, I'm in my playroom. Far too close, sorry about that.
So what's your thoughts on this kind of mix between personal development and business coaching?
I must confess, I missed most of the beginning of it. I thought I was following your link in your replay video. I was like, oh, it's finished already. I can watch the replay. And you're all there. But yeah, I do think that there is no difference really. Your business is your life and your life is your business. If you try to split them up completely, it's just never going to work.
Yeah.
A degree of compartmentalization is really important, so that you put your phone down, you walk away, and you actually go and engage with your children rather than sit there with them in the background all the time. I'm not saying that's not something you should do at all. But you know, you are who you are, and you've got to embrace that.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually there was one of the things that we covered with Lisa which was something called integrity agreements. And I was like, oh my God, that's I won't go into what they are, but I was like, that's a really useful tool for me to use with my daughter Rose. So I explained to her what an integrity agreement is. And now we have this shared language where she can call me out, where I'm not upholding myself. So yeah. Okay, so I've just spotted what the time is. So I am going to bring this call to an end. I know lots of people will be watching this on the replay, so I would love to know your thoughts on this. Feel free to drop me an email or to find me on social media and just kind of, you know, give me your take on it. So when I send out the replay to you guys, I'm going to put a couple of links in there. One is to my free challenge, which I'm doing in a couple of weeks' time, which is called A Grand in Your Hand. I'm going to walk people through the process that I use for launching and for making money, for injecting cash into your business quite quickly based on your existing network of people and your existing skill and expertise. And I'm also going to put a link into Tribe Builder, which is my 12-week incubator for entrepreneurs. It's all about kind of attracting the right people into your business and making more impact and more money. I hope this has been useful. It's been really useful for me to just kind of unpack some of this and to get some of the things off my chest about kind of my personal breakthroughs. I'm sure I'm going to be speaking more and more about this you know, as time goes on. I'm still writing my review of both the retreat and the venue. But yeah, if you've got any questions, feel free to drop me an email. Thank you for joining live, those of you that did, and for participating. And for those of you on the replay, feel free to kind of, you know, engage in some of the questions that I asked and reach out to me, and let's keep the conversation going. All right, have a great day, everybody, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.